Well, it's to understand the next generation. Often we're developing, building, planning for the future. We might look at demographics, we might look at population, but we don't understand the psychographics. We understand the demographics, but what about the attitudes, the expectations? The next generation is doing life a lot differently. They've grown up in a work from home environment. They're using technology in different ways. They're more flexible with what they're looking for in terms of learning. They're multi-career in outlook. They're marrying later, having children later, if at all. And so there's a lot of changes in the household structures, in their aspirations, in their attitudes to life and home and community. And so the more we can understand the generation that will be the residents of the communities we're developing and the stock we're building, the more relevant will be that. And keep in mind the multi-generational focus, the multi-decade focus. We're not just building things that'll be occupied and used in the next few years, but we're talking 3, 4, 5 decades. So by understanding the generations to come, even the children and those yet to be born, I think we can prepare ourselves with relevance for the future. Well, the patterns in the questions probably follow what the felt needs at the time are. I understand that. I deal in the world of future and long-term trends and decade forecasts, yet people most want to know what's happening now. How's it changing? How can I respond, with what is before me at this moment? So probably a question that I'm getting a lot at the moment, even if I'm talking about how to engage with the next generation of consumer, or how to understand the next generation of customer, or to engage with them in our organisations. The question is, okay, but tell me about how I engage with them as staff members. How can I attract? How can I retain? How can I better manage? How can I lead them so that we get better tenure and retention? That's the key focus that I'm finding at the moment as people really struggle to engage with this next generation in their teams. I think people should think more and ask more about the counter trends. So I might talk about trends, let's say the digitalization of society, how everything is video and visual based, how things are getting short form, how it's a generation that engages through screens. But the counter trend is, because of all of that, what's the pushback to that? Because that can open up new opportunities. Around that, for example, there's a rise in analog. We're seeing, vinyl albums. It's a subset, a small subset, but they're cool. We're seeing retro brands come back. We're seeing a generation look for print and magazines because everything is so visual in a digital sense. We're seeing long-form journalism and audiobooks and engagement just because everything has got so short form down to 20 seconds. So the counter trend is always one to look at, because whenever there's a mainstream trend, you'll get the pushback. Well, in this presentation, we're looking at demographics, and something I'm pretty proud of, I think our nation should be, is how culturally diverse we are as a country. We have twice the proportion of people overseas born, as is the case in the UK and the US. We've got almost 30% of our population born overseas. In fact, if you include those that have at least one parent born overseas, so either the individual was or at least one parent was, we're looking at more than half of our population is, if not first generation, second generation from overseas. So we're a migrant majority nation, and the success of that, the richness of that, and how well regarded our cultural diversity is by Australians is something to be very proud of indeed.